I will finish what you started. It was easily one of the most intriguing lines in The Force Awakens because it left us wondering just what exactly did Darth Vader start that Kylo Ren now wants to finish. I think we can safely assume that the first time Kylo Ren touched Vader's burnt helmet, he had a vision, not unlike the vision Rey had when touching Anakin's saber in the basement of Maz Kanata's castle. Though I think it likely showed him a great many things, one of them was certainly the power of the darkness, which Kylo himself even asked to see again in that scene. And I guess it probably showed him the power of the darkness through the actions of Vader during his roughly 25 years reign of terror. Personally, I think Disney is only scratching the surface of the tale they plan to tell about Darth Vader. I know the argument could be made that episode 1 through 6 were about Vader, and it's time for Star Wars to move on. But the simple fact is Darth Vader equals money for Disney, and even though a lot of fans believe the rest of Vader's story should forever be shrouded in mystery, I don't think that's going to be the case. I point to the appearance of Vader's castle in Rogue One. Now sure, you could say it was just a cool fan service scene and plays homage to the legendary Ralph McQuarrie, who of course designed Vader's castle to originally appear in The Empire Strikes Back. But what this really did was intrigue fans about just what Vader was up to. Which brings us back to the question, what did Vader start that Kylo Ren now wants to finish? Let's start by asking this question. Just what exactly goes on at Vader's castle? We can look to a line spoken by Hera in Season 1 of Rebels for some answers. Kanan has been captured and they receive word he's being taken to Mustafar. Hera says to Ezra, who's Kanan's Padawan, "I've only ever heard that name once from Kanan. He said Mustafar is where Jedi go to die." How Kanan knows this is an interesting question in itself. However, it's pretty clear that captured Jedi are taken to Mustafar, likely Castle Vader itself, as I personally like to call it, and not just simply killed, but tortured in an attempt at conversion to the dark side. How do we know this? In Season 2 of Rebels, it's revealed that the Grand Inquisitor, who Kanan defeated at the end of Season 1, was once a Jedi Temple Guard. It's highly likely he was captured at some point, maybe even during the Temple Massacre we see in Episode 3, and endured who knows what before cracking and succumbing to the dark side. Oh, and if you're wondering why Vader would have his castle on Mustafar of all places, it was actually the will of the Emperor. It was even built to overlook the site of his fateful duel with Obi-Wan in Episode 3. Why? Because this is the place where Anakin was truly destroyed by Darth Vader, where he turned on and nearly choked Padme to death, the love of his life. It was here that I think he reached the point of no return, till of course his son brings him back in Return of the Jedi. So talk about painful memories. There is no better place in the galaxy to fuel his anger and hatred, to make him even more powerful than Mustafar. I think we can also safely assume that Vader is the master of the Inquisitors, as this is heavily hinted at in Rebels, and he likely trains them at Castle Vader. They may even be based there. So are all the Inquisitors Jedi converts then? Likely not. Darth Sidious, or the Emperor if you prefer, has been collecting Force-sensitive children from as far back as the Clone Wars animated show, and quite possibly even before that. We know that in Rebels, 2 of the main missions of the Inquisitors are to hunt down Force-sensitive children, and any Jedi left that may still be out there willing to train them. We also get an episode in Season 2 of Rebels where the Ghost Crew has to rescue Force-sensitive children the Inquisitors are trying to kidnap. So what's Vader's ultimate goal with the Inquisitors? To find a worthy apprentice, would be my guess. One that could one day help him overthrow the Emperor so he can become the Master Sith. Why does the Emperor tolerate this, since he clearly knows of the existence of the Inquisitors? Because this is how the Sith rule of 2 works. The apprentice is one day destined to kill the Master, or be killed by the Master in the attempt. Or, of course, the Master could find a new candidate to be his apprentice and pit the 2 against each other, like we see in Episode 3 when Dooku and Anakin fight. Though, of course, Anakin at the time doesn't know he's auditioning for the part. This may leave you wondering, why do we see no Inquisitors during the original trilogy? There's a simple explanation. Vader has now found the apprentice he wants, that being his son, Luke Skywalker. Thanks to the new run of Marvel Star Wars comic books, which are of course 100% canon, we know that shortly after the Battle of Yavin, Vader learns the identity of the pilot who blew up the Death Star, and it's his son, who he thought died with Padme almost 20 years earlier. This, as you may guess, pisses Vader off. The Emperor told him that he'd been the one who killed Padme, but clearly she'd lived long enough to give birth. Yes, Vader had plans to kill the Emperor someday, but now it was time to start acting on those plans, and his first step was to turn his son to the dark side and take on a real apprentice. So what happened to the Inquisitors after Vader learned about Luke? Well, he may have killed them, he may have kept them around to be used as needed, who knows? But we've already seen several of them perish. As I mentioned, the Grand Inquisitor was killed by Kanan, and in the Season 2 finale of Rebels we see the deaths of 4th and 5th brother along with 7th sister. Also in the book Ahsoka, 6th brother is killed. Now, who knows exactly how this hierarchy numbering system works, or what it even goes up to, but I think most of the Inquisitors of any worth have been killed. Some people think that they may become the Knights of Ren, but I think there's a much better answer for them that I'm about to get to. Now, as we saw in Rogue One, the Inquisitors and Vader were not the only inhabitants of Castle Vader. He had at least one attendant. His name was Vani. He was the guy we see kneeling to the back to tank and reporting to Vader in the movie. And I guess several more worshippers or attendants lived there and saw to the daily needs of the castle. I'm really curious what the application process was like to get that job, but anyway. What happened to those devout followers of Vader after he perished? I think they started the group known as the Acolytes of the Beyond, a group that so far has only made a brief appearance in the Aftermath books. Little is known about him at this point, but in the first Aftermath book, a group of 3 robed figures, led by a young, pale-faced girl, by what may or may not be Darth Vader's red lightsaber. When the seller asks what they plan on doing with the saber, they say that they're going to destroy it and return it to him in death. In the second Aftermath book, Life Dead, we learn that the movement seems to be growing. The Acolytes incite a riot in Coronet City on the planet Corellia. During this riot, a boy who goes by the name Oblivion, who had been arrested for vandalism, spraying Vader Lives on a building, is broken out of jail, but not before he and another Acolyte member, Kaiza, recover a red-bladed saber from the basement of a museum that is attached to the police station they are being held at. The curious part here is that before all this happens, the boy named Oblivion is being interrogated by a detective, and he tells the detective that the Acolytes do not worship the dark side or Palpatine, but rather Vader himself. He also explains to the detective that he has not yet earned his mask. This, of course, seems to be pointing to a possible beginning of the Knights of Ren, and for all we know, there are far more than the 7 we see in Rey's Force vision. In fact, some of the bodies we see in that scene may very well belong to slain Knights of Ren. How does Ben Solo become master of the Knights of Ren? This is pretty simple if they are indeed a group of Vader worshippers. In the book Bloodline, which takes place 6 years before the events of The Force Awakens, it becomes public knowledge that Leia is the daughter of Darth Vader. Until this point, nobody other than Han and of course Luke knew the truth. Not even Ben Solo knew who his grandfather was. And of course, once people know Leia was Vader's daughter, it was easy to figure out that Ben Solo was his grandson. I'm guessing at this point he is sought out by the Acolytes of the Beyond, or they could already be the Knights of Ren at this point, who knows. And they present him with the burnt helmet of Vader that they had previously sought out. This is just speculation, he may get the helmet elsewhere, but it's clear the Acolytes of the Beyond are hunting down Vader memorabilia, if you will. I'm guessing since he is the direct descendant of Vader, that they pretty much just want him to lead them. Then, when he touches the helmet, he is shown what Vader has started and vows to finish it, and then becomes master of the Knights of Ren, perhaps even naming them at this point. Who knows exactly why Ben Solo decides to change his name to Kylo Ren or why he is given this name? Who knows the significance of the name Ren? But I'm assuming at some point soon we'll get those answers. If not in Episode 8, then probably in some of the sources of canon that will come out shortly after. I think it's also at this point that Snoke convinces him to join and be part of his First Order. In the movie, Leia does say it was Snoke who was responsible for his turn, but I'm not so certain that this isn't her way of avoiding taking some of the responsibility. Of course, in the novelization, Leia does go on to say that Snoke had been watching her son and waiting in the shadows for years. How she knows this is a great question, and if true, perhaps he was waiting for just the right moment to turn him, and could there be a better moment than when Ben found out he was the grandson of Darth Vader? So it's likely Snoke, and perhaps not the Knights of Ren or the Acolytes of Beyond, that played a larger part in his turning. Or maybe it was just a combination of the two, and that they are affiliated in some way, which I'm not so sure about, to be honest. Like I said, hopefully we'll find out more in Episode 8, or in the other sources of canon bound to be released after the movie. So what did Vader start that Kylo now wants to finish? I think there are a couple of good theories, and all or maybe none of them could be on target. First, let's remember that Darth Vader wanted to bring order to the galaxy. He even hints at this as far back as Episode 2, when him and Padme are out in the large grassy field, trying to avoid assassins out in a wide open expanse, and he teases her that if politicians can't agree, there should be someone who makes them agree. In Episode 3, he justifies his actions to Obi-Wan right before their duel by telling him he's brought peace and security to his new empire. Then in Empire Strikes Back, Vader's pitch to Luke is that together the two of them can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy as father and son. Clearly Vader wants a galaxy of peace and order, just under his rule, of course. So what if Kylo wants to bring absolute order to the galaxy once and for all, in the way that the Empire and Vader failed to? It would explain why he is a part of the First Order, which are very much like the Empire, but a little more extreme even. Then there's the possibility that he wants to turn Luke to the dark side, something Vader started but obviously failed to finish. And although that may sound like a stretch up front, let's not forget that Kylo Ren is obsessed with finding Luke in Episode 7, even going so far as to disobey Snoke's orders on a couple of occasions. And I don't know if you felt the same way, but it just seems like there's more to it than Kylo wanting to find Luke to kill the last Jedi. So maybe he wants to rule the galaxy with him, as uncle and nephew. Who knows? Let's also not forget that Kathleen Kennedy, the head of Lucasfilm, has said the saga movies will always be about the Skywalkers. Everybody assumed she meant that we'd just get a whole new generation of them, but isn't the continuing story of Vader and his legacy what Kylo Ren wants to finish very much make this movie about the Skywalkers? If that's the case, we really wouldn't need Rey to turn out to be a Skywalker, would we? I'm not saying she still won't be, but it really wouldn't be needed. Because don't be surprised if Kylo Ren's story is as big of a story as Rey's going forward in these next two movies, especially if he is the lone Skywalker of the new generation. Okay, well that's all I got for you this time, so let me know in the comments below what you think and let's talk some Star Wars. Also, please subscribe to my channel and check out some of my other videos. If you're already a subscriber, then let me just take a moment to say thanks for your continued support. And as always, thanks for watching.